When Justice Meets Mercy. Part 1. The Girl Next Door. Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Anna. Anna was the only daughter of a strong and resilient widow. She grew up side by side with her protective elder brother, Ethan. Life wasn't always easy for them. After losing their mother, the siblings learned to lean on each other for comfort and strength. Ethan became Anna's shield, and Anna became Ethan's quiet motivation. Together, they weathered life's storms. Years passed, and Anna blossomed into a brilliant young woman. She studied hard, graduated with honors, and fulfilled her dream of becoming a medical doctor. When she finally moved into a quiet residential estate in the city, Anna looked forward to peace, a fresh start, and perhaps a little adventure. It was there that she met, or rather, kept bumping into, Eric, a young barrister who lived in the house next door. Eric was polite, well-dressed, and always seemed to be in a rush. At first, he barely noticed Anna beyond a neighborly nod. But Anna couldn't help stealing glances at him every time they crossed paths. There was just something about him, his quiet confidence, the way his suits fit perfectly, his easy smile, that made her heart skip a beat. Then one day, curiosity got the better of her. Anna decided to look Eric up online. What she discovered shocked her to her core. But that is a story for part 2. When Justice Meets Mercy. Part 2, The Secret Past. Now, let's talk about Eric. Eric's life was a fairy tale from the start. He was a boy born with a silver spoon, the only son of a woman who loved him more than life itself. She doted on him, showering him with every luxury, a perfect world built just for her little boy. But the fairy tale came to a devastating end when tragedy struck. At just 9 years old, Eric lost his father, and from that moment, his mother became fiercely protective, determined never to lose the only family she had left. Years before this grief, in a moment of kindness, Eric's mother returned to her hometown. There, she found Chuka, the son of a dear friend, and promised to raise him as her own, to give him a life and opportunities he could never have had in the village. Chuka was a sweet, gentle boy. He lived with them, went to school, and quickly became like a younger brother to Eric. For a while, their lives were intertwined in perfect harmony. But life has a cruel twist. One terrible day, Eric fell gravely ill. The doctors delivered a devastating verdict: kidney failure. His mother was crushed. There was no available donor, no time to waste, and no hope in sight. As desperation consumed her, her heart began to harden. She had promised to never lose another person she loved, and in the dead of night, with her son's life hanging in the balance, a desperate plan began to form. One night, while Chuka was fast asleep, she did the unthinkable. She arranged a secret operation, a betrayal of trust that would save her son's life at a terrible cost to another. With Eric fully recovered and healthy, Chuka was quietly sent back to his village. His health quickly began to deteriorate, a silent consequence of the unmentionable act that saved Eric. Within months, Chuka passed away from complications of living with just one kidney. A small, rural gravesite became the final resting place for the boy who had paid the ultimate price. And so, Eric's mother carried this dark secret, a heavy burden that haunted her. She hid the truth from her son all through his growing years, and the weight of what she had done never left her. What happened next will shock you. But that is a story for part 3. When Justice Meets Mercy. Part 3. The Discovery. The night was quiet and still, just like any other. Anna sat alone at her desk, the only light coming from the glow of her laptop. What began as a casual curiosity, a simple online search for her neighbor, Barrister Eric, was about to lead her down a path she could never have imagined. With each click, she was unknowingly entering a world of secrets, betrayal, and heartbreak. She followed a digital trail of breadcrumbs, old case studies, legal filings, and archived medical reports. The more she dug, the more the pieces of a terrible puzzle began to fit together. And there, buried within the cold, clinical text of a case file, she saw the name that stopped her heart, Ethan Chuka, her beloved elder brother. The world went silent. Time seemed to stop as the words on the screen solidified into a horrifying truth. Ethan Chuka, kidney donor for Barrister Eric. She read the words again and again, unable to comprehend the full weight of the discovery. Her brother's name, now linked forever to the man who lived just a few feet away. The deeper she dug, the more the full story unraveled. She saw how he had been taken from their village, his kidney removed without consent, and how he was returned home, a shadow of his former self. The truth hit her like a physical blow. Her brother had been a victim, and it was this shock, this profound loss, that had ultimately been too much for their mother to bear. Heartbreak had been the true cause of her death. A wave of emotion, grief, betrayal, and a searing, white-hot rage washed over Anna. Tears of anguish streamed down her face, falling onto the keyboard as she whispered through clenched teeth, "This was my brother's life, his kidney, his future. They didn't just take an organ. They stole everything from him, from us." In that moment of raw pain, a chilling vow took shape. The tears on her face dried, replaced by a cold, unwavering resolve. She would not let this stand. "I will take back what belongs to my brother," she swore to herself. "One way or another, I will have justice." Anna's mind, once a haven for healing and compassion, now became a forge for vengeance. The medical knowledge that had once been her greatest strength was now the source of her new power. Her understanding of the human body, its vulnerabilities, and its secrets would be the very weapon she used to fulfill her vow. She walked through the familiar, sterile halls of the hospital, but they felt different now. The professional she was, the doctor who saved lives, was now plotting to do what no one would ever expect. The pristine white lab coat she wore was no longer a symbol of hope, but a disguise for the storm brewing inside her. Standing high above the city, its lights blurring into a faceless hum, Anna's reflection was a stranger to her. The kind, compassionate doctor was gone, replaced by a woman consumed by a singular, dark purpose. The vengeance she sought was a fire that burned away everything else. And with the knowledge and access her profession provided, Anna began to lay her plans. The path forward was dark and dangerous, and what she was about to do would shock everyone who knew her. But she didn't care. Her vengeance was just beginning, and that, dear viewer, is the beginning of part 4. When Justice Meets Mercy. Part 4. The Perfect Plan. Anna wiped her tears, but the cold fire in her heart burned hotter than ever. Grief was now a weapon, a silent fury that demanded a reckoning. If life had taken her brother's kidney to save Eric, then she would take something back, not with a shout of rage, but with a perfect, silent plan. This time, justice wouldn't slip through her fingers. She would take it by force. She knew a direct confrontation was a path to failure. It would be a messy, emotional storm that would only end with her defeat. Her revenge had to be a work of art, a perfect plan woven with patience and cunning. She would play the long game, using her mind as a chessboard and her enemy as a pawn. What had once been a harmless, passing crush was now a dangerous masquerade. The first move was subtle, small. Anonymous gifts began to appear on Eric's doorstep. A new tie he'd been admiring, a book he once mentioned loving in passing, even his favorite snacks. The gifts were always carefully timed, dropped at dusk or dawn, ensuring she was never seen, a ghost in the shadows. At first, Eric was merely puzzled. Who was this mysterious admirer? He became intrigued, then captivated, and he began to actively try and catch her. He set out traps, looked out his window at odd hours, and even installed a camera, but Anna was always one step ahead, a silent, unseen architect of his fascination. Then, fate, it seemed, offered her the perfect opportunity. On a sweltering afternoon, she spotted Eric's car broken down by the roadside. He stood beside it, a frustrated silhouette against the shimmering heat, and a quiet smile touched Anna's lips. This was no coincidence. It was an opening. She slowed her car, the window rolling down with a smooth, almost predatory whir.
Come on, barrister.
She said, her voice a sweet, disarming melody.
It's scorching out here. Let me give you a ride.
He hesitated, his pride warring with his discomfort, but after a brief back and forth, he gave in, stepping into her car and, unknowingly, into the first trap of her perfect plan. That short drive was the start of everything. It was the first time they spoke at length, a conversation that planted the seed of a false connection. From that day forward, they began to talk more. She began to slowly, meticulously win his trust, becoming a fixture in his life, the neighbor who was always just there at the right time. She checked on him, listened intently to his legal troubles, and invited him over for coffee. Every kind word, every thoughtful gesture, every moment spent building a foundation of trust was a calculated step in her plan. She was constructing a house of cards, beautiful and seemingly stable, that she would one day collapse with a single, precise move. The final piece of her plan fell into place when Eric lost a major case in court. The defeat crushed him, and he fell ill from stress and exhaustion. As he lay weak and vulnerable, Anna saw her opening. The time for her final move had come, and it was the most dangerous one of all. Anna came to his door with a concerned look, carrying a small bag of medicine and a prescription she had written. And in that moment, as Eric's eyes fell upon the paper, he would finally discover the shocking truth about his mysterious admirer. His life, his future, everything he held dear, had been in her hands all along. But that is a story for part 5. When Justice Meets Mercy, Part 5. Love or Revenge.
Wait, the handwriting.
Eric's breath caught in his throat as he sat on the edge of his bed, holding 2 notes.
It's the same. So it was you, Anna. You were the one behind all this.
A wave of pure joy washed over him, confirming his wildest hope that the brilliant doctor next door was his destined love.
Thank you for everything,
He said, standing outside her house.
I feel like fate brought us together.
Anna's voice was soft, almost distant, when she replied,
Fate can be a funny thing, can it?
but what Eric saw as a love story, Anna viewed as a play. Her heart didn't beat with affection, but with a different, chilling purpose: revenge. A mission to seek justice for a man named Ethan, whose very existence Eric knew nothing about. To Eric, it was a fairy tale romance. They were inseparable, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. He was deeply in love, completely blind to the game she was playing. He thought he was living a dream, but what if it was a nightmare he couldn't wake up from?
I just want us to take our time and truly know each other,
She said sweetly.
I'd like us to be celibate for a while.
Eric was filled with admiration.
I respect that, Anna. I respect you for it.
He saw her request as a sign of self-control, unaware it was simply a way to keep up her elaborate charade.
How about a vacation? Just the 2 of us. Far from all this noise.
He suggested. For Anna, that simple question was the final piece of the puzzle. It was the perfect opportunity she had been waiting for all this time. You can almost feel her heart racing, can't you? He walked into her office, a vacation bag slung over his shoulder, a happy smile on his face, completely unaware that he was walking into a trap. Anna greeted him with a warm hug, but as he embraced her, a sharp sting erupted in his arm. Eric's eyes widened in shock and his face twisted in pain as Anna, with a chillingly cold gaze, held the syringe, the needle now deep in his flesh. Within seconds, his legs grew weak, his vision blurred, and he fell into her arms. As he drifted into darkness, Anna's face hardened, the mask of a lover gone, replaced by the grim face of a woman seeking justice. The bright lights of an operating room flickered on, surgical tools laid out and ready. For Anna, The long wait was finally over. Justice for Ethan was within her grasp. She had her victim. But this, dear listener, is not the end of the story. It is only the beginning of a tale that will change everything. What do you think happens next? Let's continue in part 6. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tales by Light, and also follow us on Facebook and TikTok, Tale by Light as well. Thank you, and see you in part 6. When Justice Meets Mercy. Part 6. The night of the operation. The cold, bright lights of the operating room shone down on Eric's unconscious body as it was wheeled in on the gurney. The sterile hum of the machines was the only sound, a stark prelude to the moment of truth. Dr. Collins stood waiting, his eagerness almost visible.
Everything is ready, Anna.
He said, his voice filled with professional confidence.
The team is prepped. I'll make sure this is a perfect procedure for you.
He was ready to prove his skills, completely unaware of the true nature of her plan. The surgical instruments gleamed on the tray, each one a sharp, silent piece of the plan. The air was tense, heavy with anticipation and the weight of Anna's past. Standing at the edge of the room, Anna felt the fire of her rage flicker. She stared at Eric and saw not the face of her brother's past, but the face of the man who had brought her so much unexpected light. A new feeling, warm and terrifying, began to fight its way to the surface. The conflict was too much. A gasp escaped her lips, and she turned and ran from the room, the squeal of her shoes on the tile floor echoing behind her.
Anna, what are you doing?
Collins called out, his voice filled with confusion. She slammed into her office and grabbed a bottle of strong alcohol, her hands trembling.
Just one sip.
She whispered to herself.
Maybe I'll have the courage.
She desperately tried to drown the love that had emerged, to return to the cold, focused vengeance that had guided her for so long. But as the liquid touched her lips, a sob escaped her. She placed the bottle back on the desk, tears streaming down her face. She saw her reflection and whispered, her voice breaking,
I just can't.
With her resolve now clear, she rushed back into the oar.
Stop everything,
she commanded, her voice firm. Collins stared at her in disbelief.
Anna, this was your plan. What in the world is going on?
He stammered. But she simply repeated,
I said take him back.
She helped the team wheel him back out into the hallway and into her car. As she settled him gently into the seat, a soft, heartbroken apology escaped her lips.
I am so sorry,
she whispered, her hand briefly brushing his arm. Back in his home, she carefully laid him on his bed, a final act of tenderness. As she brushed the hair from his forehead, she whispered goodbye, a sad farewell to the man she was now saving and leaving forever. A piece of paper was left on his bedside table, with a note that was both a command and a lie.
Don't you ever talk to me, or come near my door again.
She turned and walked out of his house, leaving a note so harsh and a heart so full of love. The door closed quietly behind her, and just like that, Anna walked out of his life. But what do you think will happen when Eric wakes up, confused and heartbroken, and sees the note? Do you believe he will obey it? And that's in for part 7. Always remember to follow, subscribe, and share the story. And if you love it, please give a like. See you there. When Justice Meets Mercy. Part 7. Truth and Threat. The pounding in his head was a cruel, insistent drumbeat that mimicked the ache in his chest as Eric woke, the sunlight a brutal assault through the curtains. He held Anna's note, the words a cold knife twisting in his gut. He read them again, a desperate attempt to rearrange the letters into something that made sense, something that wasn't a final goodbye. He couldn't accept it.
This can't be happening,
he whispered to the empty room, his knuckles white around the folded paper. 4 days, he tried everything, a frantic, desperate attempt to reclaim a future that had been stolen. He hammered on her door again, the rhythmic thudding a measure of his mounting frustration.
Anna, please. Just talk to me. What did I do? Why are you doing this?
He shouted into the silence of the hallway, his voice raw with a pain she couldn't possibly understand. But the door remained shut. And then, a crack. The door opened just enough for a sliver of her face to appear, her expression flat, devoid of emotion, and it chilled him to the bone.
Eric, go home.
She said, her voice so distant it was like hearing it from another world. He knew, in that gut-wrenching moment, he was losing her. Her voice shook as she finally revealed the terrible secret, tears in her eyes as the dam of her pain broke.
It's not what you did, Eric.
She confessed, the words a ragged whisper.
It's what was done years ago. They took my brother's kidney. They killed him.
The source of her deep-seated pain was not him, but a past he couldn't have imagined. Eric staggered back from her, shaking his head in a desperate attempt to deny a truth that was already crushing him.
My mother, no. My mother would never do something so cruel.
He stammered, his mind reeling. But her words,
You are alive today because my brother was sacrificed for you,
echoed in his mind that night, a haunting chorus of accusation and pain that kept him from sleep. Haunted but determined, Eric began his own search for the truth, poring over old medical records in a dusty archive.
I have to know. I can't just take a word for it.
He muttered to himself, his fingers tracing the fragile paper. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. The final piece was a medical report that shattered his world. He stared at it, his throat seizing up.
It's my mother's signature.
He choked out, the words a fractured sound. He sat in his car for hours, the weight of the truth suffocating him.
Anna was right.
He whispered into the dark, his voice barely audible.
All along, she was telling the truth. It was all true.
He found himself at her door again, his face broken by a truth he couldn't deny.
You were right. Everything you told me, it's all true.
He confessed, but Anna's face was cold, hardened.
I don't want your pity, Eric.
She said, her voice like ice, though he saw the glistening tears in her eyes.
I don't want your apologies.
She leaned forward, the chill in her voice deepening to a terrifying intensity.
The next time you come to my house, or I see you anywhere near me, I will kill you and take back my brother's kidney myself.
He walked away from her house, his expression a mix of fear and heartbreak. He wasn't sure whether to be afraid of her or heartbroken for her, but one thing was certain. This was far from over. We'll continue in part 8. I really want to appreciate you for staying with us this far. I also want to ask you to please keep sharing the video. Let others enjoy this wonderful story so far. Thank you. See you in part 8. When Justice Meets Mercy. Part 8, The Breaking Point.
The next time you come to my house, I will kill you and take back my brother's kidney myself.
Those words, spoken with such cold fury, became a curse that replayed in Eric's mind, a constant, chilling echo he couldn't escape. Once a passionate, fearless lawyer known for defending the defenseless, Eric was now a ghost in his own life. He didn't eat, didn't work, didn't even leave the house. He was broken, crushed under the immense weight of a secret that wasn't his, a secret that had taken his mother's silence and used it to nail him to the ground. The living room became his prison, the walls a screen for the torment in his mind. He saw Ethan's face, etched with pain. He saw Anna's grief, raw and real. He saw his mother's silent plea for forgiveness. The guilt became a physical weight, too heavy to bear.
If my life cost Ethan his,
A dangerous thought began to whisper.
maybe the only justice I can give is to pay. With mine.
Almost as if he were in a trance, Eric stood up. He walked to the kitchen, his steps heavy and deliberate. He opened the drawer, the sound of final, metallic farewell. He pulled out a sharp kitchen knife, its cold blade a mirror for the emptiness in his eyes. He sat at the counter, tears streaming down his face as his hands trembled. The world seemed to fade around him, the colors dimming to a gray. With a deep, shuddering breath, he pressed the blade against his wrist, a final, desperate act for a pain that had no other release. The world went black, and he collapsed on the kitchen floor, the blood pooling beneath him like a dark halo. But fate, in a twist of cruel or kind irony, had other plans. A voice screamed, a sudden, horrifying sound that broke the silence. The gate man, who had only come to fetch a forgotten bucket, stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes wide with terror.
What have you done?
The man dropped his bucket and ran to Eric, his desperate shouts for help cutting through the air. In a moment, neighbors came rushing in, a chaotic flurry of panic and concern.
We have to get him to a hospital now.
One man yelled, his voice a mix of urgency and shock. They carried Eric out, his limp body a grim weight. The car sped through the streets, tires screeching as they raced against time. The universe, in its strange and unpredictable way, had led them to the nearest hospital, which just so happened to be Anna's. Anna's heart stopped when she walked into the emergency ward and saw him. Eric, the man she had sworn to kill, the man she had once plotted to hurt, was lying there, pale, bleeding, and barely clinging to life. His blood was on her hospital floor, a cruel and bitter irony. Her hands shook as she grabbed a pair of sterile gloves. She froze, suspended between two worlds.
Should I help him?
She whispered, her own voice foreign to her ears.
Or should I let him go and call it justice?
Her decision, hanging in the balance, would change everything. But that, dear friend, is the story for Part 9, the season finale. Stay active.
There isn't any doubt. What can I say to let this break to turn back yesterday?
When Justice Meets Mercy, Part 9, the season finale. The news tore through the city like a siren. Barista Eric is dying. The hospital was instantly besieged. Mothers he defended, widows he protected. They formed a desperate human shield outside Dr. Anna's door, their collective anguish a sound louder than any courtroom plea. They were begging for the life of their champion. Anna sat paralyzed. For years, her pain had defined Eric for her, cruel, entitled, wicked. But the powerful, desperate voices outside were dismantling her fortress of hate brick by emotional brick. She could no longer reconcile the man she saw with the hero they were mourning. Then, one of her own, a nurse she respected, burst in and fell to her knees, grasping Anna's hands with desperate strength.
Ma, if not for anything, for my sake, Barista Eric must live. I was raped by an Al-Haji, who nearly bought his freedom. Eric saved me.
The nurse's story was a thunderclap. Eric, the supposed villain, was the architect of justice.
He didn't even wait for payment. Doctor, he stood up in court and nailed that monster to justice. That man is behind bars today because of him,
she sobbed.
If there is any God, if justice is real, then save his life.
The final shard of bitterness broke. Anna realized she wasn't hating Eric. She was hating a ghost. She wiped the tears of recognition from her face.
He used his life to save others.
She realized.
My vengeance can wait. This man must live.
A cold, surgical focus replaced all emotion. She marched into the emergency room. Eric was a gray shadow, his breath shallow and sporadic. Anna grabbed her gloves, her voice cutting through the tension.
Prepare the defibrillator. I need a clear line. We are not losing him. Not today.
For hours, she was just Dr. Anna, the brilliant surgeon, her hands moving with the terrifying precision of a machine, sealing, suturing, ordering. She fought death not with spite, but with every ounce of skill she possessed. The long fight ended with a clean, steady tone. Eric's pulse stabilized. He had survived. Anna stepped back, exhausted, the weight of a lifetime's struggle finally lifting from her shoulders. When Eric finally opened his eyes, he found Anna watching him, her face etched with fatigue and a strange peace. His voice was a rasp.
You won't let me live. You won't let me die. What in God's name do you want from me?
He offered no defense, only surrender. Tears of pure regret tracked down his temples. He was ready to pay any price for his mother's sins. Anna leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper, yet potent with meaning.
If I let you die, Then my brother's sacrifice was for nothing. You must live Eric. You must make his kidney mean something.
He sobbed, a profound, shuddering relief washing over him.
Please forgive me. I cannot erase what my mother did, but I can choose a new life. I want to make it right. Just tell me how.
Anna smiled, a true, brilliant smile, and took his hand, sealing the promise.
I already forgave you. The world needs you more than my revenge ever could. You are not your mother, Eric. You are a different soul entirely.
In the simple touch of their hands, something deep within both their souls, scarred by loss and resentment, began to finally, completely heal. Months later, they stood under the sun, joining their lives, not just as husband and wife, but as two souls who proved that true justice is not punishment, but the restoration of life and hope. The past was a closed book. The future, built on forgiveness, was beautifully, completely theirs. The moral lesson. And so, our story ends not with revenge, but with peace. This is the enduring lesson when justice meets mercy. We learn that holding on to bitterness and the debt of the past only deepens the wounds. Vengeance feels like justice, but it's merely a prison for the heart. True justice, as Anna discovered, isn't found in punishment. It is found in restoration. It's about recognizing the good a soul can do and choosing to preserve life, dignity, and hope. You are not defined by the sins of your past, nor by the cruelty of your family. The future can always be rebuilt. The highest form of strength is not the power to destroy, but the courage to forgive. Choose mercy. Choose healing. Choose to make the future mean something.
Guided by love's inner sights.